Okay, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to break down the core principles from The Psychology of Self-Mastery. It's a framework for taking back control of your life by first understanding the mind that's, supposedly, running the show. So let me ask you something right off the bat. We're always told our mind is our greatest asset, right? But what if that's not the whole story? What if it's actually the one thing holding you back the most? The central idea here is a little uncomfortable. Your mind isn't designed to make you successful, it's designed to keep you safe. And believe me, there is a huge difference. Think of it less like a creative partner and more like this over-the-top paranoid bodyguard who's totally willing to throw all your dreams under the bus just to protect you from maybe getting a little embarrassed or feeling uncomfortable. And that leads us perfectly into our first big idea, the survival machine. See, at its core, your brain is, well, it's ancient hardware. It evolved for physical survival out on the savannah, which means its default settings, caution, fear, hesitation, they aren't always a great fit for the modern world. Now, just think about the sheer scale of this for a second. We have somewhere between 60,000 and 80,000 thoughts every single day. That's a lot. And according to the neuroscience that our source material points to, a whopping 80% of those thoughts are either negative or just the same old stuff on a loop. Just think about that. For the vast majority of your day, you could be just replaying mistakes, reinforcing those limiting beliefs. Your mind's default setting isn't clarity, it's chaos. And self-mastery, that starts the moment you stop automatically buying into every single thought that pops into your head. So this is where a really crucial idea comes in. It's called the gap. This is that little space between a stimulus, a thought, a feeling, an impulse, and how you respond to it. So the alarm goes off and your first thought is, I'm way too tired. The gap is that split second where you can look at that thought and choose to get up anyway. Mastering that gap, well, that's the foundation of pretty much everything. All right, next up, we're going to tear down one of the biggest myths out there, the motivation myth. We're all taught to wait for inspiration to strike before we get started, but honestly, that's completely backward, and it's the very reason most people stay stuck. So here's how it actually works. It all starts with action, and I mean cold, uncomfortable, totally uninspired action. You just do the thing. Then, that action creates a little bit of momentum, and it's that momentum that finally generates the feeling of motivation. You see? Motivation isn't the cause of action, it's the result. You have to literally manufacture it by just moving. And this really gets to the heart of it. Feelings, they're completely unreliable. They change with the weather, with what you ate for breakfast. But discipline is a system. It's a commitment you make that works completely separate from whatever mood you happen to be in. Okay, so if we can't trust our feelings, what about what other people think? Well, that brings us right to our next section, the validation trap. This is that sneaky little habit of looking for approval from others. It feels good for a second, but it quietly kills all your progress. And there's a huge difference here between amateurs and professionals. See, amateurs talk. They announce their big goals because they want that quick hit of validation before they've even done the work. Professionals, they just disappear right into the work. They know that talking about it drains the energy you need to actually do it. They let the results speak for themselves. So how do you build that professional mindset? It's not about chanting affirmations in the mirror. Real, unshakable confidence is built just like a legal case, with cold, hard evidence. Every single time you keep a promise to yourself, especially when nobody's watching, you're making a deposit in your confidence account. You're building a track record that proves, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that you can trust yourself. And this idea leads us to what might be the ultimate measure of character, discipline over drama. It all comes down to who you are in private, because let's be honest, that's who you really are. Everything else is just a performance. So I want you to ask yourself this, and be really honest. When no one is watching, when there are no consequences, no audience to impress, do you still do the hard thing? Do you hold yourself to the same standard? That gap between your public self and your private self, that's the gap between who you are and who you could become. Because at the end of the day, your life is a direct reflection of the standards you're willing to tolerate. It's that simple. If you tolerate disrespect, you'll get disrespected. If you tolerate your own excuses, guess what? You'll stay exactly where you are. Self-mastery really begins the moment you decide to stop tolerating what you know is beneath you. Okay, so how do all these little private sepulted decisions actually add up to massive change? Well, it's through what might be the most powerful force in the universe, the compound effect. This is the unseen engine that drives all real transformation. And this, right here, this is why most people quit. They put in the work, but for the first few days, weeks, maybe even months, the progress is totally invisible. It feels like you're just spinning your wheels, wasting your time. But you're not. That effort is compounding silently, under the surface. The breakthrough, the big, visible change, it only happens after a long period of consistency. And sadly, most people give up right before they hit that tipping point. And that's really the secret, if there is one. Transformation isn't about some heroic, intense, one-time effort. It's not about one crazy workout or pulling one all-nighter. It's about boring, daily discipline. It's the small, seemingly insignificant choices you make every single day that add up and create a life that's completely unrecognizable a year from now. And so, we're going to end with this. The talking is over. You now understand the traps your own mind sets for you. You know motivation is a myth, and that validation is just a cheap drug. You know that real change is built on private discipline and the incredible power of the compound effect. The knowledge is all there. So the only question left is, what are you going to do with it?